What if your future income was already committed before you even earned it? What if decisions you have not made yet are already constrained by promises made years ago? That is what debt does. Most people see debt as a number, a total, a headline, but that is not what controls the system. Debt is not a number. Debt is a schedule, payments on fixed dates, bonds that must be repaid or replaced, refinancing moments that cannot be missed. And once that schedule exists, it begins to shape behavior, because now the question changes from what do we want to do to what must we do to keep the system financed? That is the shift. The future is no longer fully open. Part of it has already been decided. Now take one example, the United States. The United States alone carries more than $30 trillion in federal debt and already pays over $1 trillion every year just in interest. Not schools, not hospitals, not infrastructure, interest only. The cost of the past living inside the present. And this is where the system becomes visible, because debt does not just sit there, it must be managed, rolled over, refinanced, continuously. And once a country depends on that process, it begins to operate under constraint. Policies adjust, budgets shift, spending is reconsidered, not only because of politics, but because of cost, because of timing, because of pressure. That pressure acts like a leash, not visible, not dramatic, but real. In 2011, during a debt ceiling crisis, the United States saw borrowing costs rise. Yields moved by tens of basis points. That sounds small, but even a shift of around 20 to 30 basis points on a system of that size translated into roughly $1.3 billion in additional interest costs in that episode alone. Nothing changed on the ground that day, but the price of money moved. Now move forward. In 2023, another downgrade, another signal. But now the debt was much larger, above $30 trillion, which means the same kind of movement has a much bigger impact. Move borrowing costs by 100 basis points, and over time, the additional cost can reach hundreds of billions of dollars. That is the mechanism. Small changes, applied to massive systems, and once the price moves, everything else begins to adjust. Now bring it down to something simple. Two people, two futures. Mihail from Lisbon, Portugal borrows at about 3.5%. Tamara from Chisinau, Moldova borrows at about 7%. Now pause, because at first glance, Tamara lives in a country where housing is significantly cheaper. So you would expect her monthly cost to be lower, but now simplify the comparison. Remove the difference in price. Give both the same number, 350,000 euros, over the same 30 years. At 3.5%, the monthly cost for Mihail is about 1,550 euros. At 7%, the monthly cost for Tamara is about 2,330 euros. Same asset, same time. But the person in the lower cost country pays more for the same future. That is the point. Because what matters is not only the price of the asset, it is the price of borrowing, the price of time. And once borrowing becomes more expensive, everything becomes more expensive to build. A home, a business, a city, an economy. Even inside a cheaper environment, cheap borrowing expands what is possible. Expensive borrowing compresses it. And what you see here between two individuals is the same logic that applies to entire countries. Because countries also borrow to build their future. And just like Mihail and Tamara, they do not all borrow at the same cost. So the same road, the same hospital, the same infrastructure can cost dramatically more depending on the price of money. And over time, that difference does not stay in finance. It reorganizes entire societies completely. So who sets that price? Not voters. Not directly. The cost of borrowing is shaped by a system, markets, expectations, risk perception, and one of the clearest signals comes from credit rating agencies. Moody's, Standard & Poor's, Fitch. They do not pass laws, they issue opinions. But those opinions move the system, a downgrade, a negative outlook, a warning. and borrowing becomes more expensive. Immediately, funds adjust, risk models react. New debt is priced higher. Future borrowing gets heavier. Nobody votes. But reality changes. And once that happens, the effect does not stay in financial markets. It moves into life. Mortgages rise. Projects are delayed. Budgets tighten. Wages slow. Taxes adjust. Services stretch. Prices increase. And over time, people begin to feel the effect of something they never directly chose. That is the final shift. Because once a country depends on borrowing, its policies are no longer shaped only by democratic decisions. They are shaped by the need to keep the system financed, to maintain confidence, to keep the calendar alive. That is why debt is not just money owed. It is a way of writing the future in advance. Because the present must adapt to decisions already locked in. And once you see that, the next question appears. If this is how pressure moves, then what is the structure above it? Who defines the rules? Who sets the system that everyone else must operate within? That is the next layer. This is Game of Powers by Igor Berniste.